Hi. So last lesson spoke about how just like really the basics of PyCharm, opening it up and getting us a little comfortable with it. This lesson is going to focus more on the 101 of writing a Python program. Again, these are like very quick talk. These videos in general are meant to be very quick on topic. So don't worry if you have a bunch of questions afterwards. That's why I'm around, always available to answer questions. But big picture is we're going to answer this. So PyCharm is automatically just opening the next folder because there's only one folder available, but we're going to stop that because from now on we're going to actually be creating different folders inside our project for each different part of the project. So I'm going to go right click on Python 101, the folder that I want to create the directory in. I'm creating a new directory, which is a new folder, and I'm going to call this lesson 01. And inside this lesson 01, I'm going to create a new Python file and just call it main. So in lesson 01, we have a file called main. Now here is where I'm going to show you how to write a Python script so that it runs right away. Don't worry too much about what each of these lines mean. As you go through the rest of these videos, the concepts will be covered, and then what this actually means makes sense. But this is just a basic Python program. We're going to do print with open and close squiggly brackets. Then we do double quotes. PyCharm is automatically creating the closed ones when I open them. And then I'm just going to write the word hello. And then we will go over here to give it a line in between just because it makes life easier. If name equals, and now we do open and close circle bracket, open and close parentheses, main. And then we go in this case, what we're actually going to do is, we're going to take this line of code and put it inside here. Now notice, and the one important thing for you to notice right away is that line 2 is indented. The reason that line 2 is indented is because it only works if line 1 is true. Don't worry about what the true false means or things like that. Just notice that line 2 is indented, and that's important. Remember that. So now if we click, you'll notice over here now the little play button, instead of me having to right click and run that, it actually, the little play button shows up over here. Because in general, when we write a Python program, we have to have this if name equals main line for it to run, and PyCharm recognizes that and says, oh hey, I recognize that, I'm gonna run this if you say that. So it runs that. We click the little plus and says, hey, do you want to run or debug or do some other stuff? We're going to run. And it just runs and it says hello, which is what we wanted our program to say. This is a very basic Python program. It's one of the most basic things. I'm actually using other pieces of code in order to make this work. Obviously, the fact that I use print and that it works is because Python has print built into it. And this line, if underscore name, you'll notice how it's not in quotes, equals, which is the same thing as saying is, and then main, and you'll notice how main is in quotes. I'm going to change these to double quotes just for the sake of consistency. So if name equals main, you'll notice the word hello is in double quotes and the word main is in double quotes. That means something. They're both the same kind of thing, which we'll talk about in another video. And then if you look over here, we say print, and then print hello is running the actual code. So if this is true, it's going to run the code. And how do we know what makes this statement true or false? It's whether or not this is the first file to run, or when this file is the main file that's running, we do this. So for example, if I create a new file and call it ABC, just for the sake of having a different file name, whoops. And I made a mistake there because I created a file and not a Python file. So I'm just going to rename it. Don't worry about why I have to do it a fancy way. And we're going to do the same thing. If name equals underscore main underscore print funny. And then I'm going to give it an extra line because convention, you always have a blank line at the end of the file, and then I'm going to push the run button over here. And we're going to run ABC. You'll notice here how it printed funny. Why? Notice here how it prints the word hello, and here how it prints the word funny. If I want to switch between the two, I can just go, I should really remove that, but for now I'm just going to go main, and I click the play, and it prints hello, and I go and I do the ABC, and I print the play, and it prints out the word funny. What's the difference between, notice how the word main over here actually has nothing to do with the fact that this file is called main. The main in the code and the main in the file name are two unrelated things. I just happen to use the word main for both. Going forward, we're not really going to be using the word main a lot until we start writing bigger projects with multiple files and multiple files in our programs, and then we're going to try to have like a main or an app file where that's going to be like our central file where everything runs. Why does it work though? Because we're telling Python where to start. We're running the Python program. We're saying, hey, Python, start with this file. So when we say the name is main, what we mean is the main, as far as Python is concerned, is the file that we start using at the start of our code. So the first thing that we're running is the ABC file, or the first thing that we run is the main file, and that's considered the main file because it's the one we're running primarily. All the other files that we do would be included, and a code would just be added to it, but in general, we're running the main file. That is how we run a program in Python, and that's the way to write Python programs that they're going to work, or that they're going to work easily. Going forward, you might not see this if name __ equals main, at least for the next lesson or two. Don't worry about that. Eventually it'll come back, but it's important to know that this exists, and it's important to get into the habit of using this when you can. Right? As always, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them.